Welcome to LSC. It's Sports Time. I'm your host, Bob Hintz. Today I have with me Dave Johnson, who is a sports writer for the Daily Press. Welcome.
Thank you.
I know you didn't grow up here. You grew up in Christiansburg. In fact, I was up there this past weekend up to Christiansburg. But when you were growing up, you played sports like everybody else.
Yeah, I grew up a sports junkie from the word go. I would, back in those days we didn't have jerseys that you can buy at the mall now. So I would take T-shirts and write Walt Frazier's number on it or Roger Staubach, somebody like that. I was a big sports junkie from the word go.
Right. So did you play some sports?
Oh yeah, basically everything. We'd play. We'd always have a game going: baseball, basketball, football. We'd even try to play hockey, which was pretty amusing because we had no ice, but it was worth a shot.
Right. So as growing up is with athletics part of, and all kids growing up wanting to play sports, but you found out early on that wasn't your cup of tea.
Well, yeah, I found out pretty soon that I wasn't going to become the next Roberto Clemente or the next Julius Erving or any of that. So I still loved it and played it and had a great time with it. Funny thing is, apparently when I was a kid, I don't remember this, but my mother swears it's true, I would play the games and then I'd come in and write about it, like I was writing a newspaper story. So she said even then she had an idea.
That's what you were.
Yeah, but I didn't know it until I was in college.
Right.
That I wanted to do it.
When you graduated, you went to Virginia Tech, which was like next door.
Right. Yeah.
and I'm assuming that because I went through the campus, it's a lot different than when you went.
Oh my gosh, it's like night and day. We were just there over the summer, and the way the place has changed, not only since I was there, but probably in the last 10 or 12 years. Really since football got on the map, on the national map with Michael Vick in the early 2000s. And so many more buildings have popped up, and it's a totally different place now.
Well, I know that if you're a Tech fan, I mean, you're die hard, and it's unbelievable how many cars that I passed this past week into that Virginia Tech
Hokie
all
Nation,
over.
right?
Right. But now when you were at Tech, you wrote for the campus paper?
Right. I wrote for the Collegiate Times. I started there my freshman year. I didn't even know I wanted to do that when I enrolled, but one day I just went into the office and asked if they needed some help. And I remember my first assignment was a field hockey game, and I mean, you could fill a thimble with what I knew about field hockey at the time, and but I guess I was able to get my way through it.
Right. Now, doing that at school, you also part-time after you got involved with writing with the Roanoke Times. Yes,
I remember one day the sports editor at the time, a fellow by the name of Bill Byrne, came to the school and was saying, I'm looking for people to help out. And I went in and talked to him, and he gave me some writing assignments, and then a few writing assignments led to more, and that's kind of was a big step in my career.
Right. Well, that's a good thing to have on your resume.
Very much so. Very much so.
Now, when doing the writing and all this stuff, did you go into journalism? Was that what you did eventually, or
like my major?
Yeah.
Yeah, I majored in communications with a journalism emphasis, and there's no J school at Virginia Tech. But I majored in that, and with the experience I got with the campus paper and with Roanoke was really, honestly, more valuable than anything I gained in the classroom.
When you were doing this, did you say, oh man, I can do this. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Or did it just hit you at one time, or just kind of grew into it?
I kind of grew into it in a sense, but I think at some point I discovered that I had a knack for it.
Right.
I never really had a knack for anything else in my life. So I don't know, I just was able to do it. I've always been a decent writer. Some people would disagree with that. But
well, you're always going to have your critics.
Exactly, but I've always been able to write a little bit, and I love sports, so I sort of combined the two.
Right. Well, then you moved down here to the peninsula, and this is about 25 years ago that you moved down there. And how did this come about? Was there a job opening? You applied?
There was a job opening, and I remember there was a guy in Roanoke at the time whose name totally escapes me. But he used to work at the Daily Press, and he put in a word for me. And Skip Miller, the sports editor at the time, gave me a call, brought me down for an interview, and I was hired. And my first assignment was a Poquoson York football game.
Oh,
that was when I was introduced to mosquitoes in Poquoson. Wow.
Yeah, they land at Langley to get filled up. But now, when you came down here, you basically took Bob Moskowitz's spot. You didn't replace him; he retired, but that was the opening, evidently, that you filled.
And that's a legend.
Isn't that
Bob,
the truth?
I mean, Bob was here for many years, wore many hats. He's a legend. I mean, that's the only word I can say.
Right. Now, your first gig, so to speak, is the York River Districts, before it became the Bay River District.
Right.
And of course, doing tab had to be.
That was like covering a college team. It really was. Terry Kirby and Chris Slade were juniors at the time, in addition to Scott Corder, who later went on to Wake Forest. McKechnie, the kicker, later went on to Virginia Tech. Charlie Hovis was the coach. They were just a phenomenal team to cover. And Terry Kirby, it's a cliche, but a man among boys. He really was. Right. And Slade, too. Well,
and they both ended up going to UVA, which was.
And then I covered him later at UVA.
I was going to say that you got to cover him again, but that as your first group down here that you got, that had to be. Oh, man. Did you know that there were a lot of athletes from the Peninsula area?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So this was something wasn't new to you?
Well, in a sense it was. I mean, I knew Hampton's record, of course.
Right.
I didn't really know a great deal about tab. And when I came down here and they told me I was going to cover the York River, somebody was saying, yeah, you'll cover Terry Kirby. And I had no clue who Terry Kirby was.
Right.
But I learned quickly. He's still one of the best I've ever covered, no question.
Well, we were talking a little bit about Terry Kirby and Chris Slade, and I just wanted to give you a little anecdote. Maybe it'll help you when you write a paper, I don't know. But Milan Brown played at Kecoughtan, is now head coach at Holy Cross. He gets the job, and he gets a call from Chris Slade. And Chris says, you don't know me, but you're from the 757, you're from the Peninsula area. I'm sending you 2 tickets to the Boston Red Sox.
Wow.
I said, has never met the guy. But from this area, these guys seem to just want to stay together.
And they don't get any better than Chris either. He's in addition to being a great player, had a terrific career with the Patriots, just a class act like very few you'll see as good as him.
Well, I would have never have known, because I didn't know Chris or Terry. I met Terry later after we retired. But I said, what a nice story.
Yeah.
So, use it.
I will. I'll steal it.
Okay. Now, after you only got 1 year with the Bay River or the York River District, and then you started covering colleges.
Yeah, I went on to the Virginia Tech beat in 1988, and at the time, Tech was just getting started. Beamer was in his second year. They were on probation from the previous coaching staff.
Right.
And you could tell that they had something. I mean, I don't know if I would have predicted they would have become as big as they have.
Right.
But Beamer, they had some solid years. They beat some good teams. I mean, they beat Virginia that year when Virginia had been number 1.
Right.
They played a murderous schedule. Oklahoma, West Virginia, just incredible teams.
Right.
And you could tell that they were going to build something.
But you covered other schools other than Tech. I don't know if it was later on, but you did Virginia, where to watch Slade and Kirby again.
In the '92 season, we did a switch and moved me onto the Virginia beat, and that was Kirby and Slade's. That was their senior year.
Right.
That was the year they started 5-0 and were ranked, I think, like 7th or something in the country, and then they did a swan dive at the end. And I was on Virginia through the 04-05 football and basketball seasons.
Right. There are other athletes in the other colleges, do you remember, that kind of caught your eye? Because I know you covered others than just Virginia and Virginia Tech.
Yeah, I mean, certainly some of the great players that I saw around the ACC, in both in football and basketball.
Right.
Duke had Leitner and Hill and Hurley, and Carolina had Jameson and Carter and gosh, so many.
Right, but that must be for you as a sports writer to just even be able to see them play, but then to be able to write about them.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. The first time, for instance, I met Dean Smith or Mike Krzyzewski or people I've been watching on TV my whole life, and it was like, wow. So it was a lot of, I was kind of starstruck there for a while.
Well, I know I would, but what do you do? And you don't want to write anything derogatory about them. I mean,
well, you got to do your job,
yeah,
but there's not a lot of derogatory things you can say about those people. So.
Right. Well, you know, we're going to kind of finish this up, but what I wanted to do was just get your, if you were going to talk to somebody that had an interest in writing sports and covering sports and all, what would be your, what would you say to them?
Well, a lot of people are saying the newspapers are on the way out, and certainly they're losing readership. But writing is still writing. I mean, you can still write online. I would advise young journalists today to become very computer savvy and know the internet well. And I think they pretty much have to. Right. I think that's the way they are learning right now. But just pay attention to sports and write what you think and be clear. Okay.
But I'm not going to stop right there because I do want to ask you one more question.
Sure.
You're now covering the Peninsula District,
mm-hmm.
and you see Hampton, you see what Phoebus has done in football, and what Phoebus has done in basketball, the program that James Daniels has done, and of course over at Hampton, Walter Brower, and at Bethel, Greg
Sure.
Breon. Can you, in your mind, is because we have so many good athletes, is because we have the coaches has a lot to do with it, or is it a combination of both?
Yeah, it's a combination. I mean, you look in football, when we're in football season now, and there's certainly a lot of athletes, but when you look at the coaches around the Peninsula District, you look at Mike Smith, of course, who has won so many games, and
right.
12, I believe it is, state titles. You
right.
look at Stan Sexton over at Phoebus, who has come in and taken over the dynasty that Bill D started. And then you look at Danny Dodson at Woodside and what he's done there. He's built such an incredible program, and with really, he's got some talent there, but I don't think anyone would suggest he has the same talent level that they've got in Hampton or
right.
Phoebus. And just some really, really good coaches, Jeff Nelson at Bethel, and so many more. They
right.
have very good coaches in the district that's helped out a lot.
Well, I appreciate you coming in.
Anytime.
Thank you for tuning in to LSC and Sports Time. I want to thank my special guest, Dave Johnson from the Daily Press. I'm your host, Bob Hintz. Until next time.